We'll start with third chapter today. That is a capital structure and leverage analysis. Okay, so what is capital structure? Capital structure means whatever my total capital employed is there, out of that how much should be my equity, how much should be my debt. Okay, the other day, first class or second class, we discussed, okay, in our balance sheet. Okay, one second, I will draw the just rough sketch of balance sheet here. Okay, equity share capital, reserves and surplus, preference share capital, then long term borrowings, then my current liabilities will be there. Okay, so all this put together is called capital employed. Agree na? So designing this is called as capital structure. Okay, means assume my total capital should be 10 lakh. Out of that, how much should be equity, how much should be debt, I need to decide. Okay, that is called as capital structure decisions. Okay, so to do this, okay, how much capital I should issue in the form of equity share capital, how much I should issue in the form of debentures, we need to take some calculations into picture. Okay, and what is leverage means, if there is any presence of debt in my capital structure, that is called leverage. Okay, leverage is nothing but the presence of debt in my capital component. Okay, so in my example, if there is long term borrowings or preference share capital in my capital, okay, then I am called as leverage company, means I have a debt in my company. Assume I am only issued equity share capital, I have not issued debentures, I have not borrowed any loan, then I am called as unlevered company. Unlevered company means no debt company. Understood? So in this case, we will be discussing in this chapter what is the capital structure and leverage analysis. We have to do some calculations also, especially in leverage. Okay, leverage, there are three types of leverage: operating leverage, financial leverage, and combined leverage. Okay, for which we need to calculate there are certain formulas which we use and calculate what is this, what is that, and what is the effect of that on capital structure. Okay, chalo Nanda, read.
Capital structure and leverage analysis. Given the capital budgeting decision of a firm, it has to decide the way in which the capital projects will be financed. Every time the firm makes an investment decision, it has to undertake a financing decision also. For example, a decision to purchase a new machinery or plant implies a specific way of financing that project. Should the firm employ equity or debt or both? What may be its implications? What is the appropriate mix of debt and equity? These are some questions that the firm needs to answer before taking any financing decision.
Simple, sir. In investment decision, what I will take yesterday means whatever we have discussed in last 2-3 classes, what we have decided, okay, I should invest in this proposal or that proposal. I have decided. How did I decide? By taking NPV, IRR into consideration, okay, and payback period and all. So there I decided, okay, where will I invest my money? So in this chapter I will be deciding, okay, how will I get the money to invest? Agree na? Whether I issue share capital, whether I issue debentures, whether I borrow money from banks or financial institution. So in this chapter it will be a more of financing decision. Okay, financing decision means what? How will the company get their funds to run the company? Okay, yeah.
Capital structure means the structure or constitution or breakup of the capital employed by a firm. The capital employed consists of both the owner's capital and the debt capital provided by the lender.
You can observe here. Okay, so whatever I have drawn, the liability side of the balance sheet, equity share capital, reserves and surplus is owner's capital or owner's fund, we will call it. Okay, the other two is debt. Okay, all put together is called capital employed. Okay, whereas current liability is not called a capital. Okay, yeah.
Debt capital is understood here to mean the long-term debt which has been deployed to build long-term assets.
Yeah, always whenever I am take a debt or long-term capital, whatever capital amount is there now, assume 10 lakh. Okay, I don't usually use it to run day-to-day business. Okay, so I usually use current assets, working capital. We discuss something called as working capital, which we use to run day-to-day operations. Whereas the long-term funds, whatever I have taken in the form of capital fund, I usually invest that in my business, either to purchase fixed assets or new proposal, new investments, I will use it. Okay, yeah.
Apart from the elements of equity and debt in the capital structure, the firm could have quasi-equity in the form of convertible debt. The financing or capital structure decision is a significant managerial decision as it influences the shareholders' return and risk.
See, this decision is very important for me because that influences my shareholders' return and risk. Why? Simple, sir. If I am borrowing huge money, I have to pay interest. Okay, so when I pay huge interest, what happens? The returns whatever is available for equity shareholders will become very less. Okay, and the risk of shareholders will increase, because what happens now when I'm issuing debt more, obviously that is a fixed payment. Interest is a fixed payment. Okay, and I lose my money full in paying interest, means obviously shareholders will be under risk. Okay, yeah. So consequently the market value of the share also will be decided. Okay, how will I decide my capital structure? Okay, if I am issuing more debt, that means I am taking more risk. Okay, when risk is more, what happens? There are chances of return more also is there, whereas the chances of market price going down is also there. See, as an investor, I will always be looking for a zero debt company. Understood? As an investor, I will always be looking for a company which is zero debt or else minimum debt. Why? Means their chances of going bankrupt or insolvent, and moreover tomorrow whatever I earn, I can make a decision of my own whether I can retain that profit or dividend I should pay or anything. Whereas if there is a debt component, no, I don't have any option. Okay, whatever interest I am supposed to pay, principal repayment I should pay. After that, whatever is left only I need to take decisions. Correct now? Whether should I declare dividend out of it, or whether I should retain the profit for expansion. Okay, yeah.
Optimal capital structure indicates the best debt to equity ratio for a firm that maximizes its value. Putting it simple, the optimal capital structure for a company is the one which offers a balance between ideal debt to equity changes, thus minimizing the firm's cost of capital.
So now I should decide my optimum capital structure. Optimum means the best capital structure where the value of the firm will increase. Okay, how will the value of the firm will increase? When your cost of capital is low. Agree na? So there is, whenever I raise the funds in the form of debt, there is something called as cost of debt. Cost of debt, that means interest what I pay. Whatever interest I pay for debt is called cost of debt. Whatever dividend I pay to the preference shareholders or equity shareholders, it is called cost of preference share or cost of equity. Understood? So every company want to keep that as low as possible. Okay, so they should plan the capital structure in such a way that the cost is minimum, whereas the value of the firm will be maximum. Okay, yeah.
Types of capital structure. Capital structure of the firm is a reflection of the overall investment and financing strategy of the firm. It shows how much land is being replaced by the firm on external sources of finance and how much internal accruals are being used to finance expansions,
etc. Okay, there are different types of capital structure. See, I have two ways of financing my expansion. Simple. What is that? One, if whenever I want money, I can issue shares, debentures, or borrow money. Okay, that is called external sources. Okay, or else if I want to make any investment, assume I have a huge profit, so I have a retained earnings. I can retain my profits and use it for expansion purpose. This is called internal sources. Understood? Means I am not raising it from outside. Whatever profit I have within the company, I am using that for investment purpose. Understood? Yeah.
capital structure can be of various kinds as displayed below. Horizontal capital structure. In a horizontal capital structure, the firm has zero debt components.
Underline the word. In a horizontal, 1 second sir, there will be zero debt component. Okay, that means the company which is following horizontal capital structure will not have any debt. It will be full equity. Okay, yeah.
The structure is quite stable. The expansion of the firm takes in lateral manner, that is through equity or retained earnings.
Means whenever company want to expand, okay, or whenever they want to invest somewhere, they have only one source to invest it. Okay, either they can issue equity shares or else they can retain profit whatever they earn and invest it in the business. Okay.
The absence of debt results in the lack of financial leverage. Probability of disturbance of the structure is reduced.
So here there is no disturbance because no one will come and disturb me. Okay, whoever is running the business is management, whereas only one type of person is there who has provided the fund to the company, that is shareholder, equity shareholder. Okay, yeah.
Vertical capital structure. In a vertical capital structure, the base of the structure is formed by a small amount of equity share capital.
Small amount of equity share capital now means large amount of debt, obviously. Correct na? So a company which is following vertical capital structure will have only small amount of equity share capital, whereas a huge amount of debt. See, every company should have at least some amount of equity share capital. Okay, no company can have 100% debt. Okay, so at least some amount of equity share capital. That is what these vertical capital structure companies are doing. Okay, yeah.
This base serves as the foundation on which the superstructure of the preference share capital and debt is built.
Means the other, assume my total capital is 10 lakh, only 1 lakh I have kept it as equity share capital. Balance 9 lakh will be my preference share capital or debentures or long term borrowings.
The incremental addition in the capital structure is almost entirely in the form of debt. The quantum of return earnings is low and the dividend payout ratio is quite high.
Means whatever profit the company earns, they pay it in the form of dividend. Okay, very rarely, very small amount they will keep it as a retained earnings. Understood? Because equity shareholders is only low na. So what I do, whatever profit ultimately is there, I will pay it as a dividend. Okay, only small amount I will retain for expansion.
In such a structure, the cost of equity capital is usually higher than the cost of debt.
Why cost of equity share capital will be high? Because we are paying huge dividend. When I am paying huge dividend, the market expectation for dividend is more. That means there is a cash outflow in the form of dividend. Okay, so that is why cost of equity will be more.
The high component of debt in the capital structure increases the financial risk of the firm and renders the structure unstable.
So in case of vertical capital structure, there will be only little of equity share capital and a lot of or more of debt capital. In that case, what happens? The presence of debt capital in financial structure is called what? Financial risk. Correct? Now, whenever there is a debt component in my capital, then my company is taking a financial risk. Okay, as in this case there is more amount of debt capital, we are taking more financial risk. Okay,
The firm, because of the relatively lesser component of equity capital, is vulnerable to hostile takeovers.
what happens now? There is only 1 lakh of equity share capital, so there is a chances that tomorrow anyone can come and acquire this company by paying 1 lakh or 2 lakh. Understood now? So as there is a small amount of equity share capital, the chances of acquiring by some other company, my company, is very high. Okay, yeah.
Pyramid shaped capital structure.
Pyramid shaped capital structure, yeah.
The pyramid shaped capital structure has a large proportion consisting of equity capital and retained earnings, which have been plowed back into the firm over a considerably large period of time.
Simple, sir. In this, most of the capital will be in the form of equity, either equity share capital or retained earnings. How will I get retained earnings? By ploughing back the profits. Okay, that means whatever profits I am earning every year, I am retaining that in my company itself. I am not paying dividend here. Okay, why? Because I am using that money for expansion purpose. Understood? Yeah.
The cost of share capital and the retained earnings of the firm is usually lower than the cost.
So the cost of share capital means here equity share capital and retained earnings of the firm is usually lower, because most of my capital is forming part of that only, and I am not paying much dividend because I am retaining my profit. In that case, what happens? Cost of equity will be low, whereas cost of debt will be more.
This structure is indicative of risk averse conservative firms.
Means this is like for suitable for the people who don't want to take risk covers, we will tell, because debt component, if there is in the equity capital, capital employed, then that means I am taking financial risk. If I don't want to take financial risk, what I will do? I will avoid debt component. I will keep only equity share capital and reserves and surplus. Reserves and surplus is nothing but retained earnings. Understood? Yeah.
Inverted pyramid shaped capital structure. Such a capital structure has a small component of equity capital, reasonable level of retained earnings, but an ever increasing component of debt.
That means here equity is less, whereas debt is more. Okay, inverted. That is why they are telling. Yeah.
All the increases in the capital structure in the recent past have been made through debt only.
Means whenever recently, if I have ever raised any capital, whenever I raised capital or finance, it will be in the form of issue of debt only. Okay.
Chances are that the retained earnings of the firm are shrinking due to accumulating losses.
Accumulative losses means company is suffering loss. That is why retained earnings of the company, reserves and surplus of the company is shrinking. Shrinking means it is decreasing. Okay.
Such a capital structure is highly vulnerable to collapse.
Such a capital structure is highly vulnerable to collapse. Okay, what happens? Because there is a huge debt. Okay, so if I am not able to pay interest or principal repayment, what happens? The company may collapse. Collapse in the sense building will not collapse, company only, financially. Okay, yeah.
Significance of capital structure. Capital structure is significant for a firm because the long-term profitability and solvency of the firm is sustained by optimal capital structure consisting of an appropriate mix of debt and equity.
Ah.
The capital structure also is significant for the overall ranking of the firm in the industry
Group. Okay, see, depending upon my capital structure, some companies will give me a rank. Okay, how well I am running my company, because whenever see, usually when debt component is more, the company is considered to be risky company. Okay, or else if I am rating A, B, C, so it will be either in the B or C category. Okay, you can observe the top companies in India or the companies which are really doing well. Okay, will be usually zero debt company or very small amount of debt. Infosys has zero debt, TCS has zero debt, Reliance Industry has a debt but very small amount. Okay, so like that. Okay, whoever has not borrowed the money from someone else, so thus people doesn't have any threat. Okay, tomorrow if I'm not able to earn profit, tomorrow I'm not able to pay anyone, it's fine if I have only equity share capital. Correct? Now equity share capital will accept. Okay, what they tell? Okay, sir, if you have profit, pay me. If you are suffering loss also, will they ask any dividend? No. Whereas in debenture holders or creditors are not like that. Okay, yeah.
The significance of the capital structure is discussed below. It reflects the firm's strategy.
Capital structure, it reflects firm strategy. Okay, what is my strategy? How much should I have equity? How much should I have debt? That is my strategy. Depends on companies to company. Okay.
It is an indicator of the risk profile of the firm.
Now it is an indicator of risk profile, means if the company is want to take risk, I am ready to take risk, what they will do, they will keep debt in their company or they raise more debt. If they don't want to take risk, I am risk averse, so what I will do, no debt, only equity.
It acts as a tax management tool.
It acts as a tax management tool, because when I am deciding about capital structure, I need to take into consideration the tax component also, because when I pay equity dividend or preference dividend, there is no tax exemption or tax benefit for me, whereas when I pay interest, I can debit that to my P&L account and claim deduction, so accordingly my profit will go down, so my tax burden will be reduced, whereas in case of equity dividend, preference dividend, no tax benefit will be given. Okay, yeah.
It helps to brighten the image of the firm.
When you plan your capital structure in a good way, better way, efficient way, okay, that means it will give a good reputation for the company. Okay, many companies are recognized as C category, D category because of their failure to plan their capital structure. Okay, whenever they want money, they will borrow, keep on borrowing. Okay, they never think of, okay, how will I repay? Okay, whenever they get a chance, they will borrow the money. Okay, so that means their reputation is not so good. Okay, I'm not ready to invest in that company. Okay, we don't know when that company will go for bankrupt or insolvency. Okay, yeah.
Capital structure versus financial structure.
Capital structure versus financial structure. Sir, as I've already discussed, okay, here this is my total capital things, correct now? So now if I go to the asset side and draw it, so my asset side will be fixed assets, current assets, agree? Other than there will be something called as fictitious assets also, we are not discussing about it. So all these 4 put together is called capital employed, agree na? Any confusion? These 2 put together, it is called equity shareholders fund, or else we will call it as net worth also. Okay, that 2 put together. Yes sir, continue sir. Now I will explain this with the example. Yeah, capital structure versus financial structure.
In simple terms, financial structure consists of all assets, all liabilities, and the capital.
Financial structure includes almost full balance sheet, sir. Okay, it includes all assets, all liabilities, and capital. Financial statements of the company means financial structure. Okay, yeah.
The manner in which an organization's assets are financed is referred to as its financial structure.
The manner how I finance my assets, okay, is called the financial structure. Yeah.
There are some similarities between capital structure and financial structure. However, there are many differences also. If you take a look at the balance sheet of the company, the entire left-hand side, which includes liabilities plus equity, is called the financial structure of the company.
So what it is called here, all this put together, all this full left-hand side of liability side, all this are put together is called financial structure. Okay, including current liability. This is my financial structure. What is capital structure na? Simple sir, whatever capital employed I told na, whatever capital employed we have discussed, right? So that is my capital structure, because capital employed is current liability a capital? Current liability capital or not? No. So this can never be my capital structure, be a part of capital structure. So whatever I call capital employed, that is a forming part of my capital structure. So what is financial structure? Total of liability side, sir. Total of liability side, which includes current liabilities. Okay, yeah.
It contains all the long-term and short-term sources of capital. On the other hand, the capital structure is the sum total of all long-term sources of capital and thus is a part of financial structure.
Capital structure is a part of financial structure, but financial structure is not equal to capital structure. Agree na? Because capital employed plus current liability will be my financial structure. Financial structure minus current liabilities will be my capital structure. Good.
It includes debentures, long-term debts, preference share capital, equity share capital, and retained earnings. In the simplest of terms, capital structure of a company is that of financial structure that reflects long-term source of capital.
Simple, correct na? Whatever capital employed we have already discussed. The other day also I discussed, today also I discussed. That is nothing but my capital structure. Capital structure or capital employed plus current liability will be my financial structure. See, retained earnings is nothing but my reserves and surplus. Don't get confused. RE, retained earnings means reserves and surplus. Okay? Yeah.
We can also say that the total financial structure minus current liability structure gives us the capital structure.
No, I have already discussed this. Yeah.
We can
Enunciate
the following differences between the financial structure and capital structure. Capital structure relates to the long-term capital requirement for creation of long-term assets.
That means whatever capital employed I have used now, am I using it for running day-to-day business? No, for financing my long-term assets or projects. Okay.
Financial structure involves creation of both long-term and short-term assets.
Whereas, see, financial structure includes current liabilities also. Current liabilities I may use it to run my day-to-day business also. If I assume I have taken a short-term loan for 6 months to run my business, that is called current liabilities. So that can be used to finance my normal business also. Yeah.
Capital structure is the core element of financial structure. Capital structure can exist without the current liabilities, and in such cases, capital structure shall be equal to the financial structure.
So if there is no current liabilities, financial structure will be equal to capital structure. See, this might be the MCQ question. Okay. Usually what? Capital employed plus current liabilities will be my financial structure. Okay. But if there is no current liabilities, then it will be 0. So in that case, capital structure is equal to financial structure. In what case capital structure will be equal to financial structure? So when current liabilities is 0, when current assets are 0, or else when equity share capital is 0, or else when there is no debt. It might be the question. Okay. Yeah.
But we cannot have a situation where the firm has only current liabilities and no long-term capital.
Means there is no situation that capital employed is 0, current liabilities is some amount. There is no chance, because no company can run without a long-term capital. Okay.
Components of the capital structure may be used to build up the level of current assets, but the current liabilities should not be used to finance acquisition of fixed assets.
Means can I use my short-term liabilities to acquire long-term assets? No. So current liabilities I can never use to acquire my long-term assets. Long-term assets means these fixed assets and all you people know na, that is called long-term assets. Okay.
This would result in an asset liability mismatch. Attributes of a well-planned capital structure.
What are the requirements? Okay, what is the basic requirements of a well-planned capital structure? Okay, what are those?
A sound or appropriate capital structure should have the following features.
Return. First of all, what my ultimate goal is to make good returns. Correct na? So when I want to give good returns to my people means the debenture holders, equity shareholders or preference shareholders, then I should earn good return. Correct na? Because they have some expectation on me, that is why they have invested in me. Okay, when I pay them well, they are ready to give more money tomorrow. Okay, so return is my ultimate thing first. Then risk. Okay, so what risk I can take in my life or in my business? Okay, if I want to take more risk, then take more debt. Okay, if you are not ready to take debt, or if you are not ready to take the risk, then better avoid debt. Okay. Next, flexibility. There should be my flexibility in my capital structure. That means assume today 10 lakh is my capital employed. Out of that, equity is 5 lakh, debt is 5 lakh. Tomorrow I have a capacity to repay the debt. I can alter my capital employed. Assume I can increase my equity to 7 lakh, whereas I can reduce the debt to 3 lakh. Understood? So there should be a flexibility to change my capital structure in any time whenever I want. Okay. Next is capacity. Okay. So the capital structure of the company depends on my capacity. Correct now? What capacity I have, whether I can repay the interest tomorrow. Okay. If not, please go for equity. Okay, when I go for an equity, obviously equity shareholders also will have huge responsibility, huge means intention, okay, or expectations from me. Okay, in that case, what I will do, okay, I should make sure that whether I have a capacity to fulfill all their requirements. Okay, then only I should decide, okay, how should I raise my capital. Control. Okay, there should be proper control on my capital structure. Okay, some people, I told you now, whenever they want debt, whomever they are ready to give, okay, they will keep on borrowing. This Vijay Mallya and all did the same thing. Okay, whichever bank is ready to give loan, okay, give. Okay, give. They used to take like that. Correct now? There is no proper planning of capital structure. Okay, yeah. So optimal capital structure, as I've already told, what is optimal capital structure means the best combination of debt and equity, where my value is more or the value of the company is the more. Okay, whereas cost of capital is very low or minimum, I can tell. Okay, yeah.
An optimal capital structure is the best debt to equity ratio for a firm that maximizes its value. The optimal structure for a company is one that offers a balance between the ideal debt to equity range and minimizes the firm's cost of capital.
That is what I told you. Okay, because every company wants to keep their cost as low as possible, whereas they want to increase their or improve their value as high as possible. Okay, so you should decide your capital structure in such a way that your value increases but cost okay, you should be attentive and interactive in the class. Okay, yeah.
A combination less or more than the optimal combination would be less than satisfying. Hence, a suboptimal combination would affect the achievement of the goal of maximization of shareholders' wealth.
Means the best optimal capital structure I should plan. If I am failing to plan the best capital structure, then what happens? The wealth of maximization goal I will have now, that I cannot achieve it. Okay, yeah.
But can we plan and design an optimal capital structure? For designing such a structure, one would need the following information.
Simple, sir. So I told you the capital structure it should be in such a way that the cost should be minimum, value should be maximum. Okay, now the question is, can I plan that? Is it possible for me to plan? Okay, for which I should be available with some information. Okay, inputs. What are those inputs?
The requirement of the capital of the firm.
First of all, I should know what is the total capital I require. 10 lakh you assume. Okay.
Availability of different components.
Now next thing is, how can I raise this 10 lakh? Can I issue equity share capital? Can I issue preferential capital? Can I issue debentures? Or can I borrow loan some from bank or financial institution? If yes, at what rate? Okay, all these things will be the next question. Yeah.
Cost of these components.
Now if I issue equity share capital, what will be the cost? If I issue preferential capital, what will be the cost? If I issue debentures, what will be the cost? I need to decide it.
Rate of return from investment.
Now if I get the money from them, I will invest somewhere. Now from which I will get some return. What is the return I get? So always the return which I get from the investment should always be more than my cost of capital. Okay, because my ultimate goal is to earn something. Okay, whatever I am earning, if I am paying to the debenture holders or equity shareholders or preference shareholders, then what I am doing, I should also be left with something na. Okay, so especially equity shareholders, okay, whatever profit is there or ultimately remaining belongs to equity shareholders. Okay, my profit whatever I earn is not sufficient to pay interest and preference dividend only, means what equity shareholders will do? Why they will invest in my company? Okay.
It has to be further taken in mind that the above information should be exact information.
Exact information, correct. Now I should not tell, okay, I may earn 15%, I may earn 12%, okay, my cost may be this much. Okay, you should have exact. See, having exact information is very challenging, but you should have in order to have good capital structure or optimum capital structure. Okay, yeah.
in reality, it is not possible to have the exact information on all the
above four parameters, correct? Especially return, I'm not sure that exactly how much I will earn. Okay, I'm expecting that I will earn this much, that much. Okay, is it reality? Will I really earn that much is the question. Okay.
Secondly, whatever information is available is for particular period.
Now whatever information, see, assume return is for next 10-15 years. Okay, how can I predict that it will be exactly same whatever I am predicting today? Okay, yeah.
Thus, we have to design the structure in a static setup which makes the design devoid of all flexibility.
Static means what we static is something fixed which we cannot change. Okay, we have to design the structure in a static setup. Okay, I should assume that okay, this things change will not change. Okay, interest, whatever loan I have borrowed now, interest will be same, it will not change in next 5 years. Okay, I assume I have borrowed a loan for 5 years. Okay, I have borrowed a loan for 8% interest. Now I will assume that okay, this 8% will remain 8% for 5 years. Okay, obviously in between it may change, but I will assume that it will be same or constant. Okay.
The real world of business, however, is a dynamic world with ever-changing demand and supply of various components of the capacity.
Correct. Now means world is dynamic. Dynamics means keep on changing. Okay, preferences of the people will change. Obviously the preferences, the expectations of investors will change. Correct. Now today they are telling, sir, okay, you give me 8% return, fine, I am happy. Anta. Once I start giving 8%, they will tell, sir, make it 10% na. Okay, you are making good profits, make it 10%. Okay, after 2-3 years they will tell, sir, you are making good profits, make it 12% now. What to lose? Their expectations will change. Okay, as depending upon the demand and supply. If I am making good profits, okay, what people will start demanding from me? Good return. Okay, like that.
Hence, we cannot formulate the optimal capital structure in a static.
Now in a static framework also I can't design my capital structure, because I know that whatever I have planned, that 4 things, it may change. As of now I am assuming that for next 5 years this will remain same, but there are chances of changing. Correct na? The bank interest rate also, assume I have borrowed a loan for 5 years at 10 lakh rupees at 10% interest. Okay, now obviously today the rate is 10%. I have assumed that for next 5 years also it will 10%, but tomorrow automatically RBI increase this repo rate, reverse repo rate, everything, the interest rate become 11%. What can I do? I can't change it now, it's not in my hands. Okay, so these things cannot be planned in static framework. Static means which is fixed, constant. Okay.
The process has to be carried out in a dynamic framework of interdependent investment and financing decisions that yield optimal values within the constraints at the time and the place when the decisions were made.
When the decisions are made, what is the thing on that day I need to take into consideration? Okay, what was the rate of interest, what is the return I am expecting, everything as on that day I should take into consideration.
We can therefore say the optimal capital structure is an ideal situation which can function as the benchmark of performance for a firm.
Okay, if you plan your capital structure properly, that means half of the work is already done. Okay, your headache will not be there. Tomorrow, how to pay interest, how to pay principal, that headache will not be there for you. Correct? Now you will focus only on operations. Okay, because many company will face this problem only. Every year, every month, what happens now? Paying debt is a big headache for them. Okay, interest, because they will be sending reminders, sir, your EMI is on due, your payment is on due. Okay, all those things they will be, but I don't have money. Okay, now how to arrange the money, from whom should I take loan again? That is a big thing for me. Okay, so you should focus on your operation. If you want to focus on your operation, first plan your capital structure properly. Okay, yeah.
Factors influencing capital structure. Some of the chief factors affecting the choice of the capital structure
Are the following. Simple, sir. There are many things which I need to take into consideration. Okay, whenever I am designing my capital structure, okay, I need to take into consideration few things. Okay, what are those few things, and how will it affect my capital structure? We'll be seeing. Understood? Yeah.
cash flow position.
Simple, sir. Cash flow position means, okay, do you have a capacity to pay interest? If you are borrowing loan, first you should know whether I have a capacity or cash amount to pay the debt, that is interest or principal amount. Okay, or else you don't go for a debt component. Okay, because equity never demand anything if you don't have cash, if you don't have profit. Equity shareholders will not tell you, borrow the loan and give me dividend. No one will ask. Correct now? So your cash flow position depends on, means your capital structure depends on your cash flow position. Okay, yeah.
While making the choice of the capital structure, the future cash flow position should be kept in mind. Debt capital should be used only if the cash flow position is really good, because a lot of cash is needed in order to make payment of interest and refund of capital.
Understood. So if I have good cash flow position, then you can go for debt. If not, please don't go for debt. Okay, simple. Next, interest coverage ratio. Interest coverage ratio means, do I have a capacity to pay the interest? We are not discussing about cash flow today. Now, okay, now are you earning a sufficient profits to pay the interest? Okay, what amount is available to pay interest? EBIT, correct na? So if from EBIT I reduce interest, if EBIT itself is negative, that means I am in a bad position, correct na? So if EBIT itself is negative, how can I pay interest? Again, I should borrow the loan to pay interest. That will be a position. Okay, now what I will do under interest coverage ratio, I will compare my EBIT figure with interest figure. Okay, and we will see that how much times my EBIT is more than interest. Okay, because at least it should be 2-3 times more, because after paying interest also I should pay tax, then preference shareholders, then equity shareholders. Okay, obviously assume my EBIT is 1 lakh, interest I am paying 80,000, 20,000 is left. Happy? No, obviously, because still 2 people are waiting now, 3 people totally including government. Correct? Now government also will be waiting for tax collection. If you are doing well and earning well, they are also happy, because they will get more revenue. After paying tax, dividend, preference dividend, then after paying that also, if something is left, we will pay to equity shareholders. Chalo.
With the help of this ratio, an effort is made to find out how many times the EBIT is available to the payment of interest. The capacity of the company is to use debt capital will be in direct proportion
Of this ratio. If this ratio is good, that means I have good debt ratio. Okay, or else my capital structure is fine. If not, I told you, EBIT is 1 lakh, whereas I am paying interest 80,000. Okay, fine. Okay, I have sufficient money to pay, but what about the other people who are waiting? Okay, yeah.
It is possible that in spite of better ICR, the cash flow position of the company may be weak. Therefore, this ratio is not a proper or appropriate measure of the capacity of the company to pay interest. It is equally important to take into consideration the cash flow position.
Now whatever we are discussing, we are not discussing anything about cash flow. First point was cash flow. Second is EBIT. EBIT, assume it is a 1 lakh. That does it mean that I have a cash of 1 lakh? No. I gave an example that day, first day or second day, I guess. Okay, sales is 10 crore, but debtors is 8 crore. Okay, I have made sales, I have made huge profit. Okay, but there is no cash with me, because everything is sitting in the balance sheet as debtors. Okay, now you have good EBIT, but no cash flow position. Okay, that means this will not give me a clear picture. Profit is there, sales is good, okay, assets is also huge, but no cash to pay the interest. What is the use? Because will debenture holders accept, sir, my debtors are waiting, sir, next month he will pay, sir, so after that I will pay. If I tell that stories, will debentures holders hold for 1 month? No. Okay, they will tell interest on interest you pay. If you are making me wait, assume I am supposed to pay 10,000 interest, on that 10% interest you pay, so totally you pay 11,000, they will tell. Obviously no person, because there is a fixed obligation for me. Okay, they have given me some due date, I should pay interest within the due date. If not, obviously they will have a charge on the assets of the company as well. Okay, yeah.
Debt service coverage ratio. This ratio
1 second, the formula for calculating is EBIT divided by interest. You know EBIT is available for whom? First person for EBIT is debenture holders or debt people. Okay, so that is what? Interest. Okay, yeah.
debt service coverage ratio.
See, same formula here, it includes installment also, means I will have to pay principal repayment also, right? Okay, now assume every month I am supposed to pay 10,000 interest plus 50,000 principal part, so 60,000 I need to take into consideration here, because to pay 60,000 also I should have money na. That means if I am paying 10,000 interest, that is not sufficient to earn only 10,000 profit. I should earn including my principal, even for it I have to pay. That means from where I have to pay? I should earn from my business, then only I can pay. Okay, so this takes into consideration both interest as well as principal amount. Okay,
This ratio removes the weakness of ICR. This shows the cash flow positions of the company. This ratio tells us about the cash payments to be made. Example, preference dividends, interest and debt capital related.
Debt capital repayment, that means principal portion. Okay.
The amount of cash available. Better ratio means the better capacity of the company for debt payment. Consequently, more debt can be utilized in the capital structure.
Means if you have better capacity to repay debt, means what you will do? Involve more debt in your company, invoke more debt into your company. Okay. Yeah. EBIT divided by interest plus installment. You can just mention in that bracket principal. For that installment, just mention it is a principal portion. Okay. It is a principal portion or capital repayment also I can call it as. Okay. Yeah.
Return on investment. The greater return on investments of a company increases its capacity to utilize more debt capital.
That means return on investment. Okay. What is the return on investment? Return whatever profit I have earned divided by whatever amount I have invested. If return on investment, if I am earning well, okay, that means I have a good capacity to repay the debt. Okay.
Cost of
Debt. Okay, means interest rate. Sir, what is the interest I am paying? Okay, simple, sir. Cost of debt, how to find out? Interest divided by the amount which I have borrowed. That will give me the cost of debt. In my example, I gave 10%. Correct na? So that is my cost of debt. Yeah. So every company should try to borrow the debt at higher rate or lower rate? Lower rate. Okay.
the capacity of a company to take debt depends on the cost of debt. In case the rate of interest on the debt capital is less, more debt capital can be utilized and vice versa.
Now there is one person who is giving me the money only for 6%. Okay, use that opportunity. Take debt now. Understood? If the cost of debt is lower, try to invoke more debt. If it is very high, try out to avoid it. Okay, try to issue equity share capital in that case.
Tax rate. The rate of tax affects the cost of debt. If the rate of tax is high, the cost of debt
Decreases. Correct na? Any confusion? Why? Simple, sir. I told you. If I am paying 100 rupees interest, assume tax rate is 30%. Effectively, how much I am paying? Effectively, 100 rupees into 1 minus 0.3, that is tax amount, that is equal to 70. I gave an example this in the initial class. Why? Sir, interest whatever I pay, I can debit it to my P&L account. Assume 100 rupees I am debiting to my P&L account. Now automatically my profit will decrease by 100 rupees. If my profit decrease by 100 rupees, I save a tax of 30 rupees. Agree na? So what is your effective interest or cost of capital or cost of debt is 70 rupees. So now assume the interest rate is 10%. How to find out the cost of debt is simple, sir. 10% into 1 minus t, that is equal to 7%. Understood? Cost of debt, how to find out? Sir, 10% is also not given, you assume. What you will do is interest amount divided by how much debt you have borrowed, divide one another. From that you will get 10%. That from that 10% reduce tax component. Okay, so that should always, cost of debt should be net of tax, whereas other two, cost of preference share capital and cost of equity, should never be net of tax. Okay, yeah, because next chapter is cost of capital. I am preparing for you people for the next chapter already. Okay, it's like that. Yeah, because all things will be interconnected here and there. Okay, because here whatever I am cost of debt, cost of equity, I am just discussing the concept here. How to calculate is, what is the formula to calculate, in the next classes we will be discussing. Okay, next immediate chapter is cost of capital. Yeah.
The reason is the reduction of interest on the debt capital from the profit considering is a part of expenses and the saving in taxes. For example, suppose a company takes a loan of rupees 100 and the rate of interest on the debt is 10%, and the rate of tax is 30%. By deducting rupees 10, interest from EBIT, a saving of tax will be taken place. If 10% on account of interest are not deducted, a tax at 30% shall have to be paid.
Simple, sir. In my example, I have borrowed 100 rupees at 10% interest. I have to pay 10 rupees in interest. Okay, but actual cost how much, sir? 7 rupees. Agree? Because I am paying 10 rupees, but on that I am saving tax of 30%. So that means my effective cost is 7 rupees. Assume my profit is 3 rupees. 3 rupees. Assume now there was no debt. I would have paid tax on 13 rupees. Assume there was no interest. My profit would have been 13. No debit 10 rupees into P&L account means my profit would have been 13 rupees. Okay, just because now I have debited 10 rupees, my profit has come to 3 rupees. Now I pay tax only on 3 rupees. Now assume I have not borrowed any loan. Okay, I am not paying any interest. So in that case, my profit would have been 13 rupees, not 3 rupees. I would have paid tax on 13 rupees. So obviously my tax amount would have gone up. Okay, shoot up.
Cost of equity capital. Cost of equity capital, it means the expectations of the equity shareholders of the company is affected by the use of debt capital.
Now, when the debt portion is more in equity capital structure, that means cost of equity will be more or less? More. More. Why means equity shareholders are taking risk now. Correct? See, simple, sir. When there is a debt component in the capital structure, risk is more. When risk is more, for whom it is more? Company. Company belongs to whom? Owners. Who is that owner? Equity shareholder. Who is ultimately bearing the risk now? Equity shareholders. Correct? Simple, sir. If there is a debt, okay, I have to pay interest. Okay, so after paying interest, if nothing is left to pay equity shareholders, who is taking the risk? Who is bearing the risk? Equity shareholders. That means higher the debt component in the company, the financial risk will be more. Financial risk is more means the shareholders expectation will be more. Okay, that means cost of equity will be more. Agree? See, everything, are you people able to connect the things? Okay, these are interrelated things. Okay, so if debt is more means the risk is more. If risk is more means equity shareholders expectation is more. If equity shareholders expectation is more, then cost of equity will be more.
If the debt capital is utilized more, it will increase the cost of equity capital.
See, be careful. You people will be an assumption that if debt is more means cost of debt will increase anta. We are discussing in a reverse way now. If debt component is more, equity share capital's cost will increase, not debt capitals. Yeah.
The simple reason for this is that the greater use of debt capital increases the risk of the equity shareholders.
That is what I explained you. Okay. Yeah.
Therefore, the use
See,
of
this
the debt-
all you may expect a theory question here and there. I can't keep on telling this will come, that will come, this will come, that will come. Okay. See here also. Higher the debt component in capital structure, dash will be cost of equity. Higher, lower, constant, cannot change or cannot tell. It can be like that. Okay. It will be higher. Okay. Yeah.
Therefore, the use of the debt capital can be made only to a limited level. If even after this level the debt capital is used further, the cost of equity capital starts increasing
Rapidly. Correct. Up to certain extent you can have debt. Okay, but you are having more higher and higher debt. Okay, just because you have an option to borrow the money, you keep on borrowing. What happens? The cost of capital will keep, equity capital will keep on increasing, shooting up.
It adversely affects the market value of the shares. This is not a good situation. Efforts should be made
To avoid it. Correct. Now I told you. Okay, as an investor, I will be looking for which company? The company which has lower debt. When the higher debt is there, what happens? The obviously market value of the company will be affected. Okay, the market value of the company will be affected, and obviously the reputation of the company will be at stake.
flotation costs. Flotation costs are those expenses which are incurred while issuing securities. Example, equity shares, preference shares, and debentures, etc. These includes commissions of underwriters, brokerage, stationery expenses, etc.
Simple, sir. Flotation cost are the cost which are incurred to raise the capital. Okay, so assume today I want to raise capital 10 lakh. Okay, will someone come in search of me and invest in my business? Obviously no. I should go in search of investors. Okay, and whoever will arrange me the investors, for them I should pay commission, correct na, or brokerage or something. So that is my cost, which is called flotation cost, or I can call it as cost of raising capital. Okay, this is not cost of capital, that is different. Cost of capital is something which I pay to the investors. Okay, so flotation cost is like for a middleman who is arranging me the money. For them I will pay this flotation cost, or else sometimes I may give advertisement. Okay, A Limited is looking for an investor who can invest this much in the company. We are really doing well. Okay, this is our future plan. If you are interested, please contact me. Obviously there will be some advertisement like that. Agree na? So in that case also I will incur some cost. That is also flotation cost. Whereas the flotation cost will be more in case of equity or debt. Flotation cost will be more in case of equity or debt. It is always higher in equity. Why means, see, issuing equity is not an easy task. How means, first I should issue application, first I should invite the people, I should issue application, then they will fill and give it to me. Then there are certain conditions, restrictions and all I should follow as per company's laws, MCA, all those things. Then if everything is satisfied, I can allot shares to the equity shareholders. And if there is any underwriter and all in between, I need to pay commission for them. Okay, whereas debt and all, assume I want to take loan, I can go put an application in the bank and get the loan. I need not pay any commission brokerage to anyone. Agree na? Any confusion in this? So the flotation cost will be higher for equity or debt?
Equity.
Good.
Generally, the cost of issuing debt capital is less than the share capital. This attracts the company towards the debt.
If I consider flotation cost as a major thing, which option I will choose for equity or debt? Equity or debt? Simple, sir. If I am taking flotation cost as a major factor, okay, I will go for debt or equity. Tell me, see, this attracts the company towards debt capital. The name itself they have given. When the flotation cost is more for equity, why will you go for equity again? Agree na? See, simple, sir. They are telling flotation cost is more for debt, sorry, equity. That means again you will go for equity only? No. As per flotation cost, we will go for debt more. I am not telling everything taking into consideration. Only flotation cost. After considering flotation cost, okay, if I go for debt, I can avoid some cost, I feel. Okay.
Risk consideration.
Risk consideration we have already discussed. Okay, so the presence of debt in the capital structure will always be a risky for the company. Okay, what that risk is called? Financial risk. Okay, the presence of debt in the capital structure is called financial risk. Okay, if the company is not able to make sufficient profits to pay their investors, that is called operational risk or business risk. There are two types of risk. One is finance risk, one is operation risk or business risk. It is otherwise called as business risk. In that, which when will I suffer a operational risk means if the company is not able to make sufficient profit. When there will be a financial risk means if there is a debt component in my capital structure. Yes, madam.
Operating risk or business risk. This refers to the risk of inability to discharge permanent operating costs. Example, rent of the building, payments of salary, insurance installment, etc.
That means obviously whatever day-to-day expenses is there, if I am not able to pay that, that means I am going for a operational risk. I am taking operational risk, business risk.
Financial risk. This refers to the risk or inability to pay fixed financial payments. Example, payment of interest, preference dividends, return of the debt capital, etc.
As promised by the company. Correct na? So if I am not able to pay whatever returns to the shareholders or equity people, then that is called what? Financial risk. I am taking financial risk.
The total risk of business depends upon both these types of risk. If the operating risk in business is less, the financial risk can be faced with, which means that more debt capital can be utilized.
See, if the operation risk in the business is less, means if I am earning sufficient profit, then I can take more financial risk. If operational risk is only already high, I am not able to pay my day-to-day expenses, salary to employees, printing a stationery only I am not able to pay. Then if you take debt, Govinda. Correct? Means how will you pay the interest? Understood? Simple. If operation risk is lower, then you can go for taking financial risk. If
operation risk is lower, we can't do it.
you can take financial risk. Okay, don't simple. I will break it. Okay, if operation risk is lower, that means you are making sufficient profits. You are paying able to pay all business expenditure. Now you can think of taking financial risk. Think of taking financial risk means okay, you can raise the amount by capital and by way of debt. Now operational risk is only high. That means you are not able to pay your operational expenses or business expenses only. Now if you are thinking, sir, can I raise capital by way of debt? No, sir. First of all, you are not paying your business expenses only. How can you pay your interest? Okay. So in case operation risk is already high, never think of taking financial risk. Okay. Yeah.
Flexibility. According to this principle,
Flexibility, as we already discussed. What is flexibility? There only I mentioned. Okay. There should be an opportunity for me to change the capital structure. Today it is 5 lakh. Okay. Tomorrow if I want, I can change it. Okay. Or restructure it. We will call it as restructuring. Okay, if I have sufficient money, assume what I will do, I will repay the debt. Okay sir, your headache is fine for me, get lost, I will keep the money for them and I will clear my debts. Okay, that money I can raise in the form of equity tomorrow. Understood? That is called flexibility. Control also I have already explained. Okay, I should have proper control for my capital structure. Okay, what control, sir? See, that's what I gave an example. This Mujay Malia, whoever gave the money, it keep on taking that. Okay, is because he is happy today, is happy. Correct? Bank is paying me 1,000 crore loan, 2,000 crore loan. He never thought like, how can I repay this? There was no control in his business. Okay, he got the loan, he used it for some purpose. Tomorrow he didn't know that what I will do to repay the loan. Okay, so he failed to control the capital structure. Okay, yeah, like this many companies are there. Okay, if I keep on giving who went for bankrupt, insolvent. Okay, why they went for bankrupt, insolvent means because of failure to make plans regarding capital structure. Okay, so debt was very huge. Okay, their whatever companies earning was not sufficient to repay the debt. In that case, what they will do, they will go for bankrupt or insolvent. Okay, yeah. Next, regulate these points and all, as I have already explained. I am just explaining the points and we are going, and if you read that once, you will get to know. Okay, it is in simple words. Regulatory framework, sir, government will have some restrictions, conditions, everything. Okay, now moreover SEBI, assume you want to issue some share capital, whether it is equity or preference share capital, there are certain restrictions. Okay, you should do this, you should do that, your assets should be minimum this much, all those conditions are there. Government framework also will be there. Okay, I should comply all that, then only I can go for a capital structure. Okay, so government may have, assume condition, you cannot have more debt than your equity, at least it should be equal or less than that. If the government has that rules or regulation, I have to comply it. Agree na? Next, stock market conditions. So I need to know what is the stock market condition which is regulated by SEBI. Correct na? What is that? Read, madam. Stock market
conditions refers to upward or downward trends in
capital market. Correct na? I should see, okay, how the capital markets are moving, upward or downward. Upward means my capital is growing, downward means my capital is shrinking.
Both these conditions have their influence on the selections of sources of finance. When the market is dull, investors are mostly afraid of investing in the share due to high risk.
Simple, sir. Today, assume I want to raise capital. Who is ready to invest? Are you people ready to invest? Any person in the market not ready to invest because of corona. Market is not supporting. Okay, even Infosys, assume the best of best company, Infosys, Reliance or TCS, Tata. Okay, TCS, Tata. Okay, Tata Group fully assume. Now those people want to raise capital. You know people will be ready to invest because they will think, okay, at least let market support. I trust you. You are a better company, best company, but still market is not good. Okay, I can't trust because in next 1 month again market may go for a toss. Okay, it may go further down. Okay, so let me wait. Tomorrow I will think and let you know. It will be the position. Seriously na, today because many people are scared to invest in the market and many people with the fear they are already taking the money back. Okay, that is how the position in the market today. Okay, because many people today also market has fallen very hugely. Okay, so what happens, many people who are like risk averse, who don't want to, obviously who want to see the money falling. Okay, so they would have invested crores together. Every day they are losing like 10%, 9%, 7% of their income or money. Okay, how many days they will wait? And this coronavirus, we don't think that will be a solution immediately. Okay, so tomorrow or day after tomorrow it will not be solved. Okay, so as it is expanding, people are feared. Okay, so this is like market condition. Sometimes there might be recession. In 2008 there was a recession. Okay, bad market condition was very bad. Okay, just because US market and world economy failed. Okay, Indian market also started falling and people started taking the money back from the markets. Okay, that is why market started falling. If you people remember, 2008 was a recession year. Correct na? Same way there will be things. Okay, many times keep on changing. Yeah.
On the contrary, when conditions in the capital market are cheerful, They treat investment in the share capital as the best choice to
When share market is doing well, so many people will feel same thing. If I invest in FD only 7%, if I invest in market I will get 15%, it seems 20%, it seems. So people will start investing in market. When market is doing bad, what they will do? FD only better, sir. Okay, why to take risk? Correct na? Here there is chances of losing my money. There at least 7% I will get. Correct na? This is how people will react to the situations.
companies should therefore make selections of capital sources given in view the conditions prevailing in the capital market.
Capital structure of other companies like competitors. Okay, whoever is having, means assume I want to start some infrastructure company. So what I should plan is, okay, how infrastructure companies are working, what is the maximum debt they are having, okay, how much debt I can have. Okay, so I will plan my capital structure depending upon my competitors or in my industry whoever is doing well na. Okay, so how they have planned, okay, I will see that and I will try to inculcate it. Agree? Any confusion? Chalo.
Capital structure theories.
Yeah, 1 second, just relax for 2 minutes, we will continue. Okay, too much of the break later. Okay, there are 4 theories, we will discuss this and better take the break. Okay, so now okay, capital structure theories. Okay, what is this capital structure theories? Means there are totally 4 theories. Okay, where they tell value of the firm depends on what. Okay, how will my capital structure affect my value of the firm? We will be discussing under each theory. Okay, each theory will tell, okay, this will affect my capital structure, this will affect my capital structure. Okay, some other theory will tell, no, this will not affect, this will affect my capital structure. Understood? And each theory will tell why we are telling this. There is a justification for that. Agree na? So all 4 theories will give different opinion or different angles. Okay, all 4 theories we will be seeing and we'll come to a judgment. Okay, what really affects my capital structure? Okay, till now we discussed, now 14-15 factors are there which I need to take into consideration. When I am deciding my capital structure, I need to take into consideration 14-15. Obviously that is not the ultimate, still there are many things. Okay, these are the 14 major things. Okay, so now what we will see each theory, what they tell. Okay, and what is their assumptions and conclusions. Okay, each theory will assume few things. Okay, I will assume this will not change, that will not change, this will remain constant. Then if these things happen, then what is the value of the firm? Okay, yeah.
There are basically 4 approaches to capital structure decisions: net income approach, net operating income approach, traditional approach,
Modigliani-Miller approach. Modigliani-Miller approach. Just.
net income approach. According to this approach,
What is net income, sir? What is the profit available to equity shareholders? Correct. Net profit. Net income is nothing but net profit. Okay. So this is the amount which is available to equity shareholders. Okay. Yeah.
according to this approach, there is a relationship between capital structure and the value of the firm.
They are telling, according to this concept or approach, there is a relationship between whom?
Capital structure and the
Value of the firm. That means if I change my capital structure, value of the firm will change. Okay, so if I do something, it may increase. If I do something else, it may decrease. Okay, when it will increase, when it will decrease, I need to discuss under this approach. Okay, yeah.
and therefore the firm can affect its value by increasing or decreasing the net proportions in the overall financial.
That means assume my total capital is 10 lakh. Now by deciding how much debt it should be, how much equity it should be, I can increase or decrease my value of the firm. What I will assume, because certain assumption, when I am giving some justification or when I am giving some conclusion, I will assume few things because I am predicting something about future, what will happen in future. So what assumptions I will make it. Okay, I will always assume that cost of debt is less than cost of equity. Okay, so first thing is, okay, I can go for debt because my cost of debt is less. Okay, yeah.
Both cost of debt and cost of equity remain constant with the increase in financial leverage.
Now whether I increase my debt, whether I increase my equity, that will not change my cost of equity and debt. Okay, assume the interest rate is 10%. No matter how much I borrow the money, it will be still 10%. Understood? Just because I am borrowing more, it will not increase 12%, 13%. That is what I am assuming. Practically it may change, but I am assuming that it will remain constant. Okay.
Use of more and more debt financing in the capital structure does not affect the risk perceptions of the investors.
Means if I am using more and more debt, that will not change my risk perception. Okay, now I assume Infosys has 1 lakh rupees debt. Okay, I have assumed that okay, Infosys has 10% risk that they will not repay my debt. Okay, now they are increasing the debt 20 lakh, 10 lakh, 40 lakh, 50 lakh. Okay, that will not change my risk perception. Whatever I had a risk perception on Infosys now, that will remain same. That is one of assumption. Okay,
There are no taxes.
that means in this approach I will assume that tax rate is 0. Means company is tax free anta, because if I start calculating what will be the tax here, what will be the tax there and all, it will be a deck. What I will assume is okay, company is tax free, or else in this approach I will not take tax into consideration. Okay,
Under this approach, the cost of debt capital and the cost of equity capital remains unchanged.
when debt by total capital changes, simple sir, that's what I already told. Cost of debt and equity will remain constant irrespective of how much I borrow or how much I issue as a equity share capital. Okay, D by TC means debt by total capital. Debt by total capital, you can write the full form there. It is debt by total capital, or else capital employed also. You can mention it as capital employed. In our terms it is capital employed, which includes both equity as well as debt. Any confusion in this? No, it is not D or TC. Be careful. It is D by TC. Yeah,
The degree of leverage
varies. Okay, I told you what is leverage? The presence of debt in the capital component. Correct na? So if there is more debt, there will be more leverage. If there is more leverage, the financial risk will be TC stands for total capital employed. Okay, that is debt plus equity. Agree? See, simple sir. What did I do? D by TC means assume my total capital is 10 lakh sir. In that debt equity, debt is 3 lakh sir, equity is 7 lakh sir. Okay, now what is debt ratio means 3 lakh divided by 10 lakh. What is the debt component? I found out. Debt divided by total capital. Now if I want to calculate what is the equity portion, what will I do sir? 7 lakh divided by 10 lakh. Any confusion in this? Okay, higher this ratio, higher will be the leverage. Higher the leverage will be the higher will be the financial risk. Don't tell only risk. You should name it financial risk, because there is some other risk, operational risk, business risk and all. Okay, yeah.
The constancy of cost of debt and cost of equity with respect to the degree of leverage means
KO means cost of overall capital. Okay, so what is cost of overall capital now? So simple. So are you able to see this? Yeah, 10 lakh is my capital employed. This is my capital employed. In that debt is 3 lakh, equity is 7 lakh. The cost of debt is assume 10%, cost of equity is 8%. Now how to find out the cost of full 10 lakh? How to find out cost of full 10 lakh? Simple sir. Cost of debt how much sir? 10% into what is the proportion of debt in total capital? 3 by 10. Okay, plus 8% is cost of equity into what is the proportion of equity? 7 divided by 10. Okay, now tell me, calculate in your calculation and tell quickly. You can use M plus today in this concept. Calculate and tell, sir. Good, take one good normal calci. You can't use this in exam. 3 by 10 into 10% plus 7 by 10 into 8%. Sir, you can take simple sir. 10% into 0.3, 8% into 0.7 you take sir. Directly you will get the answer.
0.086.
8.6. Simple. 8.6 madam. 8.6%. 8.6. Percentage na. That is why I told. Whatever you told was correct. Into 100 if I do, I will get the percentage. That's all. Whatever you told also is correct madam. Okay, don't worry. So this is the cost of what? 3 lakh or 7 lakh? I have got cost of capital, overall capital 8.6. This is cost of what?
10 lakh.
Ah, very good. Understood. That is what I am trying to get from you. Okay. Because debt 3 lakh, I already know it is 10%. Equity 7 lakh, I already know it is 8%. So what did I calculate now is, what is the cost of overall capital? Understood. So there is a formula to calculate overall capital. Simple, sir. Cost of equity into proportion of equity. Cost of debt into proportion of debt. If I add both, cost of overall capital. Any confusion? If there is preference share and all, you should do that also. Okay. Here what did I do? Simple. 10%. Sorry. 10% into 0.3 plus 8% into 0.7. 0.3 and 0.7 is a proportion. That's all. How did I calculate? 3 by total capital, 7 by total capital. That's all. Easy. This might be a question. They will give cost of equity, cost of debt, amounts. Then they will ask you to calculate overall cost of capital. Like same way how I did here. Okay. So everyone should take down this. Okay. You have taken down this example. Okay. One second. I will clear few things which is not required. Yeah. You can put a arrow mark. However, I told total capital employed is 10 lakh. That is broken down into two parts. Debt is 3 lakh. 7 lakh is my equity. 10% and 8% stands for cost. 10% and 8% stands for cost.
There is a formula.
Formula I will give, but don't try to remember in the formula way. Okay, I will give this. That space whatever I have left now, that is to give formula only. Okay, see, you have space somewhere on the top. One second. Have you written already? Did you take? 1 second. You have space here na. This theory thing, there you come. Okay, there you write capital employed is 10 lakh. Okay na. So that I will break it into two parts. Under that, debt equity. Okay, so debt 3 lakh, equity 7 lakh. Cost, debt how much? 10% na? 10%, equity 8%. So this will be KD, this will be KE. So how to calculate KO? Simple, sir. Okay. What is KD? 10%. Then what is the proportion of KD? 3 by 10. Plus what is KE? 8%. What is the proportion of KE? 7 divided by 10. Okay, I will give the formula for this, don't worry, but as of now take in numbers. Okay, yeah, total it was 8.6%, which is nothing but cost of my overall capital, which is 10 lakh in my example. Simple. If this type of question and all comes, it is very easy to score. In seconds you should get the answer. Any confusion? And that 7 lakh, is it only equity share capital or equity share capital plus reserves and surplus? Plus reserves and surplus. Be very careful. You can mention here. It is equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. Because equity includes, that day I have mentioned, equity or equity shareholders funds includes equity share capital and reserves and surplus. Because sometimes instead of taking 7 lakh, what you will take? Assume equity share capital is only 5 lakh. Only 5 lakh you will take. Be careful, you should include both reserves and surplus as well as equity share capital. Are you able to see here? Okay, finish taking down. Shall we move ahead? Okay, now we will see the formula for this. Okay, yeah, first read. Where you are reading? Where you?
So the average cost of overall capital measured by the following formula declines as the degree of leverage increases.
As the degree of leverage increases, it will decline. What is the formula now? We know the numbers now. Okay, so now we will discuss in the formula type. Simple. Cost of overall capital is equal to cost of debt into what? Debt divided by equity plus debt. Any confusion? That is nothing but total capital employed. Okay, plus cost of equity into equity divided by E plus D. Okay, this I can write it in another form. KD is equal to proportion of D, means debt, plus KE into proportion of equity in my capital structure. Done? Any confusion here? Simple, ah? So you don't try to mug up this or buy at this. Understand the concept. Okay, if my cost equity is this much, debt is this much, cost of respective is this much, then what is the average cost of overall capital? Okay, this KO is nothing but average cost of capital. We will call it as average cost of capital also, or as overall cost of capital. Okay, done, sir? Can you move ahead? Yes, madam.
This happens because when the degree of leverage increases, cost of debt, which is lower than cost of equity, receives a higher weight in the calculations of cost of overall capital.
Means obviously when what happens, this happens when degree of leverage increases. Okay, means you are borrowing more money. Okay, in that case KD which is lower than KE, we have already assumed that KD is less than KE. Assumption, first assumption what, madam? Here cost of debt is less than, correct. Now first assumption which I assumed, when you are borrowing more, what happens? We have already assumed that KD is less than KE. This is higher weight in the calculation of KO, so this will be more proportion. Agree na? The proportion of debt will be more. Any confusion? So my leverage will be increasing. Any confusion? No, na? Yeah, assumptions also under each thing you should remember. What net income approach will tell? My capital structure will affect my value of the firm. They make 3-4 assumptions. Okay, so after that we will discuss KD, KE. KD will always be lower than KE. Okay, how to find out from KD and KE overall capital? We have formula. Understood? Yeah, we have an illustration to understand this approach. We will see it. Yeah.
A company that has an investment of rupees 2 lakh and net operating income of rupees 50,000, it is considering two scenarios: no debt.
That means I require 2 lakhs, sir. Now I have two options. First one is no debt. That means full equity. Agree na? Second option.
Equal levels of debt and equity of 1 lakh.
That means 1 lakh each. Equal debt, equal capital. Equal debt and equal equity. Yeah.
Let us say that the company finds out the cost of equity is 12% and the cost of debt is 8%.
Can I find out overall cost?
Yes.
Okay, in both scenarios can I find na? First scenario full 2 lakh is equity. Second scenario 1 lakh each. Okay, they have given what is the cost of equity, what is the cost of debt. Okay, can I find out what is the overall capital? Don't find out. Okay, here it's already written answer. I'm just telling. Okay, from the given information I can find out. Okay, don't worry. Okay, wherever it is mentioned illustration, I would have given solution there only. Problems we will be solving. Okay, illustration is like examples. Okay, yeah. Equity first scenario 2 lakh, whereas in the second scenario 1 lakh. Debt 0, 1 lakh. Total capital 2 lakh in each case. Cost of equity 12, cost of debt 8. Now they have told 50,000 is what I am expecting to earn. EBIT they have mentioned in the question illustration. Okay, next interest in the first scenario is 0 because debt is 0, whereas in second scenario 8,000. How did I get that 8,000? Simple, sir. I am borrowing 1 lakh na. Interest is 8%, so 8,000 is scenario B, whereas in scenario A there is no debt, that is why there is no interest. Okay, then earnings available to equity shareholders 50/42. Sir, why I didn't reduce tax? I didn't reduce preference dividend. Why no tax? Under this approach we are assuming tax is 0. Next thing is there is no preferential capital to pay preference dividend na. There is only two options: equity, debt. So when preferential capital is not there, we should directly go to equity shareholders. Agree na? So now earnings available to equity shareholders is 50 in first scenario, 42 in second scenario. Then comes value of equity. How to find out value of equity, sir? 4,16,000. How did I get? Means 50,000 divided by what is the cost of equity? 12%. 12%. How did I get 3,50,000? Simple, sir. It is 42,000 is my earnings available to equity shareholders. What is the cost of equity? 12%. Check. 42,000 divided by 12%. Any confusion? Correct na? Same way 4,16,000 also you will get. 50,000 is the earnings available to equity shareholders. divided by cost of equity is 12%. So you will get 4,16,667. Any confusion? How to find out the value of equity means always it is earnings available to equity shareholders divided by cost of equity. How to find out cost of debt? Simple sir, interest divided by cost of debt. Simple lah. So next, total market value of debt. How did I get 1 lakh? So simple, 8,000 is the interest, right? Hello, 8,000 is the interest I paid for debt, right? Then what is the cost of debt? What is the cost of debt? Cost of debt 8%. Debt I have taken 1 lakh, on which I am paying 8,000. What I am finding out is market value of debt, which is interest divided by cost of debt. That is equal to 1 lakh. Any confusion in this? Simple sir. How much I am paying, at what rate I am paying. Okay, see now in this case, scenario A, 50,000 belongs to equity shareholders. What are their expectation? 12%. So 50,000 is 12% of their expectation. So totally what is their value? 50,000 divided by 12%. Same way other case, 42 divided by 12%. Any confusion? 42,000 divided by 12%. Any confusion in this? Pakka. Shall we go ahead? You take down these figures. How did I get these things working? Mention this in your handout. How did I get the figures?
So how do you want that 4,50,000?
4,50,000. Yeah, 3,50,000 plus 1 lakh. Value of equity plus value of debt will be 4,50,000.
Divided by?
Don't divide anything. Simple, madam. See, what is the value of the firm? Value of equity plus debt. Correct na? Debt is how much? 1 lakh. Equity is how much? 3,50,000. Now what is the value of total capital or total company? Equity plus debt. Correct na? So how did I get market value of the firm means it is equity plus debt. Okay. Be careful. That is I mentioned there na add market value of debt. So that will give me the answer. Now by getting this, can I calculate average cost of capital? How? You can observe below. Okay. See, 8% is the cost of debt. In first scenario, cost of debt or debt is 0, right? So 0 by 2 lakh plus 12% is cost of equity into 2 lakh by 2 lakh, because full capital is equity. So it is equal to 12%. In case of unlevered firm, cost of equity will be cost of overall capital. Can I tell this? When I will call a firm as unlevered firm? When there is no debt. Easy. So this might be a question. In case of an unlevered firm or a zero debt firm, okay, cost of equity will be equal to cost of overall capital. Okay. Next, scenario B. Can we go for scenario B? How to calculate cost of overall capital? 8% is cost of debt. Company has borrowed only 1 lakh. So 1 lakh divided by 2 lakh is proportion of debt plus 12% into 3,50,000 divided by 4,50,000. Okay, 3,50,000 divided by 4,50,000. That is the market value of equity. Okay, that will give you 11.10%. Here they have not considered the capital, they have considered the market value. Agree na? Whatever the market value of equity is there. See, total is like 4,50,000. Agree na? Total is 4,50,000. In this, how much is equity proportion? 3,50,000. How much is debt proportion? 1 lakh. Any confusion? No, na? Pakka, right? Shall we move ahead?
So you know something from the unlevered.
Unlevered firm means there is no debt, madam. If there is no debt, there is no cost of debt. So in that case, cost of equity will be equal to cost of overall capital, right? That is what happened here. Cost, see, this actually was not required only. Correct now, because there is no cost of debt for the company. So in that case, what happens? Cost of equity will be my overall capital. Cost of overall capital. Agree na? But for working purpose, I did there. Okay. Actually, this I would have not done only because there is no debt. When there is no debt, no need of considering the proportion of debt. Agree. This and all is shortcuts. They may test you in theory proportion there. Theory question. the cost of unlevered firm will be equal to cost of equity. Okay, the cost of firm, if they use the word, that is overall capitals, or cost of company if they use. Any confusion? Shall we move ahead? Chalo sir. So in this 2 points I can conclude. What are those 2 points, sir? Oh, madam.
As the cost of capital decreases, the value of the firm would grow.
As the cost of capital, see here cost of capital is lower. Agree? Value of the firm is more, right? When cost of capital is less, value of the firm. This is the first conclusion under net income approach. They told what they told in the first line. Capital structure will have effect on value of the firm. This is how they are explaining how it will have effect. Anta. If the cost of capital is lower, the value of the firm will be more. That means, can I tell it has an inverse relationship? Which two has an inverse relationship? Cost of capital and value of the firm. Okay? Yeah. Don't use the word value of equity, value of debt. Okay, whatever words we are using, be very careful. Okay, sometimes I can call it as value of company also. Value of firm, value of company, nothing but same. Yeah.
Inverse relationship exists between the value of the firm and the cost of capital for any given level of return.
That is, higher the cost of capital, lower will be the value of the firm. Simple first conclusion here. Okay, second.
As we increase the level of debt in the company, the value of the firm would go up even further.
Simple, sir. See here cost of debt, or else I can tell it as debt. Debt is 0 now here.
Yes.
So because of that, what happens? My cost is more. Your debt is there. How much? 1 lakh. Okay, 1 lakh is there. In that case, what is happening? Cost of capital is reducing. That means, as per this approach, I am not telling this is what we will learn in FM full. Only for this approach, if the debt is there, then value of the firm will increase. If debt is less, then the value of the firm decreases. That means debt and value of the firm as positive relationship. Agree na? So if debt increases, value increases. If debt decreases, value decreases. Only for this approach. Only for this approach. Don't think that this is always for everything. Okay, for only this approach. Whatever we learn under each approach is applicable only for the respective approach. Here we thought tax is 0. Sir, tomorrow I will use somewhere tax. You don't tell, sir, tax you told 0 na anta. That is only for this approach. Okay, be careful. Yeah.
This would mean that the companies would like to employ as much debt as possible.
Correct na. See, if I borrow more loan, if I borrow more debt, that means value of the firm is increasing. Means what I will think? Okay, let me borrow more money. Understood? So what are the 2 conclusions under in net income approach? 3 things we have learnt here. Simple. Capital structure decisions will have effect on the value of the firm. How? Cost of capital is more means value of the firm less. If cost of capital is less means the value of the firm increases. Inverse relationship. Next, higher the debt component, more will be the value of the firm. Lower the debt component, lower will be the value of the firm. Positive relationship. Simple. This is what we have concluded in this approach. What is the name of this approach? Net income approach. Okay. So we'll take a break now. We'll continue after break. Okay. Or else we will finish one more approach. Yeah, we will finish one more approach because these 2 are like something interrelated. Better we finish this and take approximate 6:30. Yeah. Okay.
Net operating income approach.
See, net income means what? Net profit, which is nothing but the profit which is available to equity shareholders. Net operating income means what? EBIT, which is available for both debt as well as equity. Agree na? Any confusion? See the name. The approach's name is only different. Obviously, I will consider the same thing. Okay. Net income means the profit which is available to equity shareholders, whereas the net operating means EBIT. Okay.
Net operating income approach is opposite to the net income approach. According to net income approach, net operating income approach, the market value of the firm depends upon the net operating profit or EBIT.
Simple, sir. There they told the value of the firm depends on capital structure. Here they are telling it depends on EBIT or operating profit. Simple MCQ expected question. Yeah. Simple. The name of the method is only telling it depends on what anta. Okay.
And the overall
Cost of capital. So it depends on 2 things. One is EBIT and overall cost of capital. Okay. Yeah.
The financing mix or the capital structure is irrelevant and does not affect the value of the firm.
Here they are telling, sir, capital structure will not affect my capital. value of the firm. Understood? They told capital structure will affect my value of the firm. Higher the debt, higher the value. Lower the debt, lower the value. Here they are telling, sir, capital structure will not change my value, sir. What changes my value is EBIT and overall cost. Understood? Any confusion? You understood the difference? This is how you should remember what that approach told, what this approach told, because question will be on any one approach in the exam. You will this I saw somewhere, that approach or this approach. People will have confusion. Okay, be very careful. This approach name itself is net operating income approach. If you know what is operating income, that means it is done. Okay, operating income is nothing but the other name for EBIT. Correct? Now first day or second day I gave the format. Okay, same thing. Yeah.
The net operating income approach makes the following assumptions. The investor see the firm as a whole and thus capitalize the total earnings of the firm to find the value of the firm as a whole.
As a whole I am seeing. I am not seeing only equity shareholders earning. I am seeing capital employed earnings. Means full debt as well as equity. That is EBIT. Okay.
The overall cost of the capital of the firm is constant and depends upon the business risk, which also is assumed to be unchanged.
Simple, sir. In the previous case, I assumed KD and KE is equal or constant. Here I am assuming cost of overall capital is constant. That means it won't change. Understood? In this case, they would have given KO. I will assume that KO will remain same. Okay.
The cost of debt is also taken as
Constant. So KO is also constant, KD also is constant. Now KE will vary. Correct na? Agree? KO minus KD will be KO minus KD will be KE. Correct na? They are telling KO is constant, KD is constant. How to find out KE? Because KE plus KD is equal to KO, right? Agree na? So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Now they are given 2, 1. Another one I can find out now. Okay, simple way. Yeah.
The use of more and more debt in the capital structure increases the risk of the shareholders and thus results in increase in the cost of equity.
Correct. Now, if you are using more and more debt, I told you, I already gave an example. If you are using more and more debt, what happens? Shareholders will be bothered. Sir, you are borrowing so much money. You have to pay so much of interest. Will I get anything or what? So what happens? Cost of equity will increase. Okay.
That is, the increase in KE is such as to completely offset the benefits of employing cheaper goods.
And there is no taxes. Simple. Understood? So in this approach, what I will be doing is to find out, see, cost of equity will increase itself. I don't know how much cost of equity is. Cost of overall capital, cost of debt they will give. In that case, what I should do? KO minus KD will be KE. KD will be more means KE will also will more. Correct? Means if you are using more debt, so automatically my KE will go up. If you are using less debt, then KE will come down. Understood? Any confusion? Okay. So here two things will have effect on my value of the firm. Which are the two things? EBIT and overall cost of the capital. Okay. Illustration. So now we will understand this concept with the help of example. Yeah.
Let us repeat the example as we discussed earlier in the net income approach. Let us take a company that has an investment of rupees 2 lakh and net operating income of rupees 50,000.
Same example, sir. Total capital required is 2 lakh. Out of that first scenario full equity, second scenario half each. Debt of equity half. Net operating income, that is EBIT, is 50,000 in each case. Okay.
Let us assume that the company finds out the overall cost of capital is 10% and debt is
Overall cost of capital. That means now they are given KO and K. I need to find E. Correct na? Previous question what they had given? KD, KE they had given. I found out KO using the formula. Okay. Now same way, sir. Simple. KD is there, KO is there. Minus one another, you will get KE. Okay. Yeah.
as the return expected on the total capital is 10%. Therefore, the market value of the total capital would be such that this return becomes 10% on the sale. This means that the market value of the capital would be rupees 5 lakh.
Agree now. Why? How did I get 5 lakh? My EBIT how much? Hello. My 50,000 is EBIT. What is my overall cost of capital? 10%. Correct. Overall cost of capital means debt plus equity na. Debt plus equity is overall cost of capital. EB80 is available for both debt as well as equity. So 50,000 earnings is available for total capital providers. Okay, what is the cost of total cost of providers of fund? 10%. Any confusion? EB80 is something which is available for debt as well as equity. Okay, the cost of debt as well as equity is 10%. The earnings which is available for them is 50,000. What is the total value of the company now? 50,000 divided by 10%. Any confusion in this? You will get, madam. You will get 5 lakh. Okay, don't worry about the working. Any confusion in this? You can write this. Okay, how did I get 5 lakh there? You can mention there 50,000 divided by 10%. What is 50,000? EB80. What is 10%? Overall cost of capital. Done? Simple, logical, everything logical. Yeah.
As our assumption in this case is that the total market value remains constant.
Now 5 lakh will remain constant. Total market value will remain 5 lakh. Now what we need to decide is what is the value of equity, what is the value of debt. 5 lakh is blocked. Okay? Yeah.
Also, the value of debt would also remain constant as the cost of debt remains constant.
8% will remain constant. We have discussed assumption. Cost of debt is constant. Cost of overall capital is constant. 2 things constant. Market value constant. 3 things constant now. Okay?
This means that the equity capitalizations can be calculated by subtracting the market value of debt from the total market value of the firm.
Simple, sir. Simple. Listen. Very logical. Market value of the firm is EB80 divided by overall cost of capital. This is the market value of company as a whole. Now, cost of debt is same, constant. Now I know what is the interest I am paying. Interest divided by cost of debt. I will get value of debt. Correct now, market value of debt. Last case I did 8,000 divided by 8%. What I got? Market value of debt. Now I have market value of the company 5 lakh. Now if I deduct market value of debt from this, okay, 8,000 divided by 8%, I will remove market value of debt. What is remaining, sir? Market value of equity. Market value of the company is 5 lakh. Market value of debt will be 1 lakh. How did I get 1 lakh? 8,000 divided by 8%. Agree na? What is 8,000? Interest. What is 8%? Interest rate or cost of debt. So you will get value of debt. So from 5 lakh if I remove 1 lakh, what will I get, sir? Value of equity. Any confusion? So value of equity is something like here it is balancing figure. I need to find it as a balancing figure. Okay, so total value minus debt value, you will get equity value. Previous case what I did was equity value plus debt value, total value. Correct now? You can observe here if I am wrong. Okay, see here it was first I found out value of equity, then for that I added market value of debt. What did I get? Total value of the firm. In this case I have 5 lakh here. Correct now? I will get 1 lakh here. Can I find out value of equity? Reverse calculation, that's all. Any confusion? Chalo.
This means that the equity capitalizations can be calculated by subtracting the market value of debt from the total market value of the firm. Then the return of the equity
Divided.
by the market capitalizations of equity would given us the cost of equity.
Don't break your head. Simple. We will go step by step. Okay, understand? You don't take anything. Everything is given here. Some things we need to write calculation. You can take later. Okay, sir. Equity in first scenario full 2 lakh. Equity share capital. Then second scenario 1 lakh. Debt 0 1 lakh. Same example. Cost of debt 88. Then EB80 50. Then overall capitalization rate 10%. KO constant, right? Hello, under this approach constant, right? In the previous approach KD KE was constant. KO I found out. How did I find out? That weighted average proportion I used and calculated. Correct na? KD into proportion of KD plus KE proportion of E. We did na? Agree na? Now there is no question of doing that. Okay, because it is already given and it is constant. Sir, listen first, you can take down later. Then total market value 5 lakh. How did I get 5 lakh? Simple, sir. EB80 how much?
50,000.
This is available for both debt equity. What is the cost of both debt and equity? 10%. So divide 50,000 by 10%. You will get market value of the firm, company. Don't write anything. I am telling, I will give time to write. First understand. Okay. So 50,000 divided by 10%. 50,000 is the earnings available to all. 10% is the cost of all. So divide one another. You will get what is the value of all. All includes equity plus debt. Okay. Yeah. Next. Sir?
Also constant.
Which one? 5 lakh is constant. When two things are constant, if I find out third thing from that, that is also constant. Na? 50,000 is constant, 10% is constant. If I get something from this, that is constant. Understood? Okay. Chalo. Interest on debt 0, 8,000. How did I get 8,000? 1 lakh in second scenario into interest rate. No divided by interest rate 8%. Agree na? Where is 8%? Here. Where is 1 lakh? Here. In scenario 2, it is 8,000. Whereas scenario A, 0. Because it's a zero debt company. Agree na? Next, debt capitalization rate 8%. 0.08 means 8%. Agree? Next, market value of debt. How will I get this 1 lakh? So simple. 8,000 is the interest I am paying to debt holders. Interest rate is 8%. So that will give me market value of debt. Now, total market value is 5 lakh. Market value of debt is 1 lakh. How much is my market value of equity, sir? Any confusion in this? Hello? Any confusion? 5 lakh minus 1 lakh. I have written here. Total market value minus market value of debt. Any confusion? Now, scenario A. Total market value 5 lakh. Market value of debt is 0. So what will be the equity? 5 lakh. So full 5 lakh. Now I can find out one more thing. Cost of equity is not given. KE, is it given? How can I find out? Simple, sir. Sir, how can I get KE, sir?
AO minus AD.
Don't want. Okay, another approach is there. Simple. See, how will I get equity value, market value of equity? I will use the formula here. Okay, can you people see you? Okay, simple. Earnings available to equity shareholders, or else I can call it as net income, divided by cost of equity will give me market value of equity. In the previous problem I did, right? I will tell you. I will come here. Don't confuse. Don't confuse. See now, market value of equity is here, right? How did I get that, madam? 4,16,000. 50,000 is the earnings available to equity shareholders divided by 12%. What it is? What it is? Cost of equity. 12% is cost of equity, right? Hello? Cost of equity. How did I get market value of equity? Earnings available to equity shareholder, which is nothing but 50/42. Divided by 12% if I do, I will get market value of equity. Now just reverse it. Now I don't have KE, but I have other two figures. Do I have other two figures? I have market value of equity. I have earnings available to equity shareholders. If I cross calculate, can I get KE? Yes or no? Yes. Simple. See, one things are related to others. If you know this, that will become easy. If you are not understood, sir, how did I get 4,16,000 actually? If you can you explain again? Then you can't understand that. Did you understand all these things in the previous problem? Okay, you have to go home and practice all this. Or else now you would have understood. See, everything will not come directly. Every problem will not remain same. There I would have done one calculation. Here same thing in a reverse way. Correct? Now if they give everything directly, what is that? What is this? Then this is not called professional course, sir. Agree na? Then how to get cost of equity? Simple. One second. What is the formula I have used here? Here it is there. Earnings available to equity shareholders, KE is equal to market value of equity. If I just reverse it, okay, I want to get KE, right? So it will go to the other side. So what happens? Earnings available to equity shareholders divided by market value of equity. Any confusion? I just reverse, sir. KE went to the opposite side. If it go to the opposite side, it will go to the numerator. The other one, market value of equity, is coming to the denominator. When one thing goes to the opposite side, numerator will become denominator, denominator will become numerator, plus will become minus, minus will become plus. This thing basic maths at least I should know, because see, commerce students, whenever I see x plus minus, we will start shivering, because we don't like maths usually. Okay, that is why we would have come for commerce, but still these are very basic maths. Okay, this at least we should know. If you don't know the the calculus, that this thing on all, we are not expecting to know. Okay, yeah. So here it is, what is the formula?
Earning.
So earnings available, or else what name you is net operating income, then interest on debt. Yes, we are not calculated that. So okay, we can write earnings after tax also is fine, or earnings available to equity, because there is no preference dividend here, divided by market value of, don't get used to only one figure. Earnings of available to equity shareholders is also called as PAT if there is no preference dividend. It is also called EAT. Okay, so you should get used to other names also. Now what is the thing, tell me madam. So market earnings available to equity shareholder in this case is 50,000 now. There is no interest, so 50,000 by market value of equity is 5 lakh. 10% I can write into 100 you should do. Okay, next here it is 42,000. How sir? 50 minus interest I am paying 8. Agree na? So no tax, straight away 42,000 divided by 4 lakh. Huh? 10.52. That's okay. Any confusion? Finish till here. We will see the conclusion. Take everything whatever I have written here. Okay, if you want you can use the full forms also. Okay, EATESH means earnings available to equity shareholders. KE always stands for cost of equity. MV of equity means market value of equity. If you have any content the other side, whichever I have written in blue, you have mentioned all those, because you should know how, why did I use this formula. Okay, see, this you can understand only if you have understood the previous case illustration, means net income approach formula. Okay, see, whatever I used there, I am just reversing the calculation, that's all. Okay, nothing new here, nothing new. Shall you move ahead? Sorry, done. Chalo, next we will see what is the conclusion we got from this. Okay, we have already seen the value of the firm depends on, under this approach, EBIT and overall cost of capital. Agree? Correct na? In under this method, whereas in the other method, capital structure, it depends on capital structure. Okay, yeah.
With increasing or decreasing leverage.
Now your cost of debt is constant, fixed, whereas cost of overall capital is fixed. Now you can observe, here it is 10%, here it is 10.5%. Why is that change? Here there is no debt, here there is a debt of 1 lakh. That means higher is the debt component, your cost of equity will go up. Correct na? Here debt is 0, your cost of equity is less. Understood? So they have positive relationship. If there is a debt, the cost of equity will be more, or else if debt is more, cost of equity is more, debt is less, cost of equity is less. You can get this. You should compare this and this to get the first point. Okay, yeah.
That is the amount of debt in the capital structure. This means that as we increase the level of debt in the company, the value of the firm doesn't change and the company does not have benefit by taking on debt.
See, if I take debt, value of the firm is 5 lakh only. Whether I take debt or equity, that will not change, but cost of equity will change. Agree na? Will the value of the firm change? No, 5 lakh is 5 lakh only. Okay, yeah.
This would mean that the companies would like to employ as much equity as possible so as to reduce the risk of the company.
Correct na? Agree. So if you want to reduce the risk, what you will do? You will employ more equity than a debt. Any confusion? Pakka. Shall we close this here? Means stop it here. We will continue after the break. Okay. So we are done.